Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Graham Randall, CEO of Noninvasix. Oxygen is fundamental to life. That's obvious, right? What does that really mean? Cells in our body consume oxygen in order to create energy. When cells are deprived of oxygen, they die. And as a result, our bodies have evolved elaborate networks of arteries and veins in order to ensure an adequate oxygen supply to our organs. Arteries carry oxygen to the organs, veins carry deoxygenated blood away from the organs. When that blood supply is disrupted, organs die, and then potentially people die. So you would think that, as important as this problem is, that doctors would have sophisticated tools for measuring the adequacy of the oxygen supply. But that's not actually the case. The tools we have today are either invasive or crude. And so as a result, inadequate perfusion, which is an inadequate blood supply, is a major cause of death and permanent disability. Shock is the #1 cause of death in the intensive care unit. Postpartum hemorrhage is the #1 cause of maternal death. And in the NICU, brain hypoxia, or low levels of oxygen in the brain, is a major cause of neonatal death, 23%. That's second only to prematurity. So we've chosen to focus on this neonatal opportunity because NICUs tend to be early adopters, it's a desperate need, and the FDA right now is very supportive of pediatric devices. So let's dig in on the problem. Every year in the United States, 340,000 premature babies are born, and they are all at increased risk for low levels of brain oxygenation, hypoxia. Right now, that goes mostly undetected because our tools we have are unreliable. And so what doctors typically recognize is brain damage. The baby goes into a seizure or they pick it up with imaging. The treatment we have is hypothermic therapy, where we lower the body temperature of the baby by a few degrees. That's been shown to be neuroprotective, but cognitive deficits are still likely. And hypothermic therapy must begin within 6 hours of the hypoxic episode, and we don't have a reliable detector for that. And that's what we need. We need a tool that will allow us to detect hypoxia as it occurs so that doctors can intervene, and then we can reduce the incidence of brain injury by 50 to 75%. Noninvasix has developed just such a technology. We're going to revolutionize the NICU by allowing neonatologists to directly, accurately, and non-invasively monitor the oxygenation of the baby's brain in real time. The technology was developed with over $6 million in NIH and DoD grant funding, originally for soldiers with traumatic brain injury. It's been proven in animal and human testing, including neonates and fetuses. It has 7 issued patents, which we've licensed from the University of Texas, and we've met with the FDA. We have an agreed upon de novo 510K pathway. That means the FDA considers this a non-significant risk device. So how does it work? Well, we pulse safe near-infrared light into the biggest vein in the brain. The hemoglobin in the blood, which is the molecule that carries oxygen, absorbs that light and thermally expands very rapidly, sending back a pressure wave. And the amplitude of that wave is directly proportional to the amount of hemoglobin that absorbed the light. What differentiates our technology from any other technology is that sound doesn't scatter, and we know the time of flight of sound through tissue. So we know exactly where that signal originated. So we call this precision oximetry, the ability to know exactly where you're measuring oxygenation with extreme accuracy. So how does this compare to the crude and invasive tools I mentioned earlier? Well, the gold standard is the jugular bulb catheter, which is an invasive catheter near the jugular. It's not suitable for neonates because their blood vessels are too small to be catheterized, but it provides absolute values of venous oxygenation. So you know how much oxygen was extracted by the organ. Pulse oximetry is ubiquitous in the hospital today, but it only measures arterial saturation. It doesn't give you that venous number. And near-infrared spectroscopy hasn't been widely adopted by NICUs in the United States because it cannot provide an absolute value of venous oxygenation. It provides an aggregate oxygenation of an amorphous volume, and therefore it has a real problem with inter- and intrapatient variability. You can put the sensor on the right side of the forehead, you get a different number from the left side. Noninvasix technology was invented as a non-invasive alternative to the gold standard, that jugular bulb catheter. But it's non-invasive, it's suitable for neonates, and it provides that absolute value of venous oxygenation. So as a result, we think the market potential for precision oximetry is enormous. We're over $5 billion in the United States, nearly $13 billion worldwide. We're starting in pediatrics because it's a good-sized market. I mentioned it's a desperate need. But we can very rapidly expand out into adult brain oximetry, central venous oximetry, so we can address those issues of shock and postpartum hemorrhage. And then ultimately, what we think is the biggest market opportunity, total hemoglobin monitoring. The total hemoglobin blood test is the most commonly ordered blood test today. We can do it non-invasively and continuously. So we think this has potential to be the next vital sign. Our business model is familiar to all the Philips people in the room. It's a typical razor and blades model. We have a console and a disposable that is price comparable to near-infrared spectroscopy, and we can offer it an internal gross margin that's very attractive. We've gotten some great traction. We have wonderful research partners. We've been through some very productive accelerators, notably, of course, Philips HealthWorks, and we've gotten some great prizes. I want to point out two of our partners, which we recently acquired through this program. The Florida Neonatal Neurological Network and Texas Children's Hospital are both agreed to help us develop our technology. And I'm very happy to announce today that Noninvasix has received $800,000 in investment just in the last month. $500,000 from the Texas Medical Center. It's the largest medical center in the world. They deliver 25,000 babies a year there. And then Angel MD is closing on a $300,000 syndicate of physician investors. These are obstetricians and neonatologists who believe in our product. So where are we going? We're currently raising a $5 million Series A to build the manufacturing prototype that we will take to the FDA for 510K clearance, and then we'll be able to launch into the NICU. And in the HealthWorks program, we have developed a strategy for rapidly and inexpensively adding on new probes that allow us to expand out into adult brain oximetry, central venous oximetry, all those other applications that we think will allow this company to scale. Our team is experienced. This is the third startup that I've run as the CEO. I have my PhD and my MBA. Our co-founders and co-inventors are both professors at the University of Texas Medical Branch. So how do we propose to move forward with Philips? Well, there's some low-hanging fruit with the current product portfolio. We want to build a plug-in module for IntelliVue so we can get into the NICU and the ICU. We want to integrate with Avalon to build fetal brain oximetry and with the Respironics ventilator monitoring for adult brain oximetry. Then we want to co-develop an ultrasound probe. With a ultrasound probe, we can do ultrasound-guided oximetry. This would allow us to image the blood vessels and the central venous blood vessels, and then click a button and get an oxygenation number. Then we can address those problems of shock and postpartum hemorrhage. And then ultimately, we want to address it up to the ICU. We want to combine Philips monitoring capabilities with our precision oximetry and some AI to control the infusion pumps and the ventilators. This gives us a fully integrated, closed-loop critical care system. We believe that you can only automate the critical care if you have precision oximetry. So we want to work together with you guys to build, we've heard of driverless cars. This is a doctorless ICU. We're going to get there. So thank you very much.